So I was on Twitter the other day. I know the greatest place to be on, especially when you're looking for civil conversation and discourse. When I saw something come up in my feed that made me chuckle a bit, it came from an individual by the name of Joe Castro, who has a YouTube channel known as the the podcast. And it was a video titled, Jalen Hurts will have more playoff wins than Dak Prescott when all is said and done. Now, it wasn't that made me want to talk about this. It was the fact that he just talked nonstop about the Dallas Cowboys the entire day. And he eventually released merch saying that Jalen Hurts is better than Dak Prescott. I'm all in. So that really made me laugh. And look, I'm not trying to sit here and say that people can't have these opinions, but I wanted to talk about what he said and just overall my thoughts on what he said. So let's buckle up and let's get into this. So look, before I begin, I just want to provide this little disclaimer because I want people to understand something if it's a Cowboys fan watching or even an Eagles fan watching this. Look, I'm trying to come at this as honest as possible. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to just BS you thinking one team's better than the other. I'm going to look at this as objectively as possible. And it's up to you if you want to agree with it or not, but, watch through and just see what I have to say. I want people to at least look at what I have to say rather than just go into the comments like, oh, I disagree, or just listen and let's have an honest conversation here. So let's go ahead and get started.
That your quarterback has been captaining, your team for the past 7 years and has one playoff win to show for it. So when a person like me gets on Twitter and says Jalen Hurts at the end of the day will have more playoff wins than Dak Prescott when it's all said and done, when they're both retired, they both hang it up. I don't think that that's crazy because we have said, and you have said, Dallas, that team stats are wins, right? Wins are a team stat is what I mean to say, right? So when you go into that and you start to break that saying down, right? You guys love to say that. So when you start to break that down, your team refuses to put pieces around its quarterback. You did it for 1 year. You guys didn't do anything, and now look at you. You have a lot of young talent at that wide receiving spot. Yeah, CD Lamb might be great. Michael Gallup, when he comes back, he might still be pretty good. We'll see what happens, right? But you lost in Amari Cooper. You lost an offensive lineman that was a starter for your team last year. You know what I'm saying? You lost a defensive lineman who was a starter for your team last year. You guys think that numbers just come and go. It's not just about that. So I'm not sitting here talking junk. I'm sitting here being honest.
So, first thing, Dak Prescott's actually quarterbacked the Dallas Cowboys for 6 seasons, not 7. 2022 will be his 7th year with the to-be-determined result. But Dak Prescott's been with the team for 6 years, going on 7. And if you want to be technical, he quarterbacked the team for 5 full seasons and a quarter of a season due to 2020. But the part that confuses me the most is that he says that, okay, Dak Prescott with the Cowboys only has one playoff win to show for his career. But then you go on to say, well, we say it's a team sport, but when you look at how the Cowboys build their team, they can't build around their quarterback. They only did it for 1 year, and look what happened. And I'm not sure, and just help me out here, because I'm not trying to be rude or just condescending. I'm honestly just trying to figure out what kind of point you're trying to make. Because if you're trying to say that it is the fault of the Dallas Cowboys for not building adequately around Dak Prescott, not just offensively, but defensively, I agree with you there. That is 110% the case. That goes for free agency and the draft. But if you are saying it's Dak Prescott's sole reason that the Dallas Cowboys have not succeeded in the postseason, that's not how this thing works. It's how your team performs at the end of the day.
Look at how the general managers have proven that they are willing to build the team up. We can talk about your GM. I've talked to a lot of Cowboys people. We can talk to you about your GM, right? Your guy doesn't want to spend money. He doesn't want to take risks in free agency. This is all stuff I hear from you guys. So why is, if it's a team stat, right? We go back to the beginning of this. If it's a team stat, why is that not part of the team? So I say that our GM is one part of this whole equation. Right? That he's one reason why I think Jalen Hurts at the end of it, if he stays our quarterback, obviously that's the caveat. But I said what I said, so I'm not going to sit here and add it to it. I think that he will show enough this year to remain our quarterback, and this is why I'm saying this. You look at the team structure, you look at how the team is willing to structure its team around a certain player, right? Last year, the last 8 games, we changed our whole coaching mentality. Right? We were a pass-first team. We turned into a run-first team, and we did damn good at it. We became the #1 rushing team in the league for the whole season, not just those last 8 games, even though we were rushing at historic clips. So what I say that to say this. You guys have an older coach who is set in his ways that wants to do a certain thing. If he doesn't have the players, that will fail. Our coaching staff has proven that you give us pieces and we'll figure something out. I worry about our defensive coordinator, and that's a story for another day, but I will give you that. I know that's going to be in the comments because I do worry about our coordinator. We'll see what he does with his pieces, but that's fair to assume should get better when you look at the pieces that he added to it. I don't think that it's unfair or crazy or out of this world to say that staff is going to get better with the addition of the players that they want, the type of players that they want. We've seen so many great players go to terrible systems and fail because of the system. So don't give me that you add talent to a system, it doesn't get better. It's just not how that works. So I said the coaching staff, I say the GM willing to work with what he's got. Again, the coaching staff willing to work around what they have and doing it in very good way. I mean, our running game was not just good. It was historic, right? Like, we're not just talking about they started rushing for 100 yards here and there. They were winning games with the ground game. Obviously, it wasn't, something that you can bring into the playoffs. Tampa went out there and whooped our tail. So now we're asking Jalen Hurts to take that next step. That's the biggest question mark, in my opinion. That's the biggest. He has to do that in order for this to kind of be true. And even so, I don't think so. I think that the team around him will drag him to some playoffs.
I have never heard in my entire life someone tell me that a front office is not impactful with how the team does on the field or on the court, depending on the sport that you watch. I've never heard anybody say that it's not a part of the equation. If you think that the front office has no bearing on how a team does in the long-term, short-term, or whatever, you are ignorant, my friend. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that he's saying that, but I'm just saying for anybody in general. But I've not heard anybody say that otherwise. I think that a front office is key to team success. How they go about building their team, how they go about ensuring that the team continuously has people in place to make the team successful. That is extremely important. I don't care how anybody slices it up. Now, the one thing I will say, too, is that Dak Prescott is only one of 3 other quarterbacks to stay with the same team for 5+ years. The only other 2 guys are Derek Carr for the Raiders and Aaron Rodgers for the Packers. Those are the only 2 other guys that have been with their team longer than 5+ years. The reason I bring that up is Jalen Hurts has yet to get a contract extension and show that he is the guy. Now, I am not saying that he is not that individual that can be the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's not what we're having a conversation about. But in terms of when it's all said and done, and if you're talking about for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts needs to get his contract extension first. And more importantly, the Eagles need to make sure that they are putting a good team around him and the players around him as well. That's just how it is. In terms of what happened during the season, 2021 that is, it needs to be said. Jalen Hurts has to take that next step. You said it. I agree with it. Jalen Hurts needs to show that he is not just this guy that can run the football and occasionally pass the ball. He needs to be the guy that, when necessary, yeah, he can pass the ball, he can do his job, and do it very well. We went through the same thing with Dak Prescott years ago. He showed that after 2018 into 2019, he evolved into that top-level passer. I'm not here to argue whether or not he's a top 10 quarterback and stuff like that. That's not what we're discussing here. But he needs to show that he can take that jump and be that guy. If he can, that's cool. You got yourself a franchise quarterback, and you don't have to worry about the position for however long until maybe you have to address it, right? And so if I'm the Eagles, yes, you want to build a team around Jalen Hurts as good as possible to determine whether or not he is worth the money. You have A.J. Brown. You have Dallas Goedert. You have all these pieces together. You have an offensive, everything, right? If he cannot succeed with those pieces around him, and I'm not saying he has to throw 50 freaking touchdowns. If he cannot show that he improved, that's a problem. And I'm kind of waiting a little bit more on him because he's only had 1 full year as a starter. It might take until his final year as a starter to determine whether or not he's worth the money. We don't know that. But I agree with you there. And not every situation is going to go well for your team. Yes, I understand you mentioned all these things, as I did last year with the Cowboys, but you know what ended up happening? Well, I talked about, hey, the offensive line's playing very well, we're running the ball well, we're playing very balanced. After that Vikings game, Cowboys offensive line doesn't play as well. The whole team offensively did not look good, but defensively they were doing enough to get by. And so that is where when shit hits the fan, you need to make sure that that team is performing well, because if Jalen Hurts is the reason that the team isn't doing well and he's part of the problem, like Carson Wentz was years ago, that's a problem, all right? And so that's just me being honest. Like, if Dak Prescott had a ridiculously terrible year and he's the reason we're doing bad, that's a conversation that you got to have in terms of, like, that part of your team. But going back to the whole team construction, the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, have an adequate playoff roster. I'm not saying they're going to do anything crazy, but that's how it is. I think that their offensive line is set and solid, minus Tyron Smith, of course. But the Cowboys have adequate enough weapons to get the job done. It's just a matter of, does the team perform well? And that is the variable that's going to be very important, especially for Jalen Hurts.
Does. But this team, and I'll say it about the next quarterback.
Wait a minute. I thought it was Jalen Hurts will have more playoff wins than Rain Dakota Prescott. Not Eagles quarterbacks will have more wins in the playoffs than Rain Dakota Prescott. So here's the thing. If you wanted to talk about why you believe the Philadelphia Eagles are in a much better position than the Cowboys, okay, that's fair game, but we're not here to talk about that. You set the table of the title of the video being Jalen Hurts will have more playoff wins than Dak Prescott. And then you just said, oh, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback. So then what was the point of making the video then? I'm just saying, like, that's just my personal view on that. So I think that has nothing to do with that. If you say that, oh, it doesn't matter who else, so then you're implying that if Jalen Hurts doesn't get the job done, then no, he won't have more playoff wins than Dak Prescott. But at the end of the day, we agree. It's a team sport. If the teams do well and their quarterback does their job, they'll be fine. And I really have nothing much more to say. I don't care what happened last year at this point because we're on to 2022/2023. So we'll see how things go this year. If the Cowboys beat the crap out of the Eagles again, okay, I'm just kind of like, whatever. That's just me. But I, just wanted to have a discussion on this entire situation that you brought to light. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.